Welcome to Warrior Goddess Wednesday. I'm doing some Supergirl 1985 with a big agenda to get through today. So let me just get ready. Okay. Oh my goodness. So if you want to see the screen share, that will be on YouTube. We're going to talk about generations and like the 80s and how things like that can give you intel about yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm having such an issue with this setup. Hi, welcome, welcome. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start streaming here. Okay, so I'm on a couple platforms today because this is the afternoon stream. Welcome to Supergirl, talking to you guys about 1985. So if you guys are not familiar, I'm Rachel Z, and I typically read comic books live to you guys on, okay, Wolfie, oh my goodness. Welcome to Wednesday. So what we're going to talk a bit about today is generations. So the reason being is that I was born in 1985, and the year and month that hey Darren, hey fellow truth teller, welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to do so this show is basically about me telling you guys about stories through astrology. Now, I discovered astrology in like 2020 when like the world got all crazy, and when I discovered it, I was like, holy moly, this is like a code to the cosmos, and not in like a hokey sense of like horoscopes or anything like that, but more from a perspective of how you are able to know thyself. This blueprint of a character description in the cosmos and the stars that serves as a reminder as to who you truly are and what you're meant to play here, right? So what I'm going to go into is Supergirl 1985, and why 1985 is resonates with me in a particular kind of way. So let me just pull up. We're going to talk about Pluto today. Yo, you get it. Of course, Darren. I've seen you too. Like we do get it. It's but you know what? The truth doesn't scream; it whispers, and it's also encoded. That's why it's called mysteries, right? And awe, and it's not. It is like being hidden in plain sight kind of situation, right? And so what you resonate with, what you find value in, what your favorites are, what you truly love and you feel yourself like a magnetic pull being pulled to these things, trust that. Trust that, honestly. Even if like the status quo makes you think that like that's not important, or like how am I supposed to be an artist or anything like that. So for example, I'm a poet. I've written poetry since I was a kid. And you know what? I'm going to read you guys actually something that I wrote when I was 16. And I've realized something, when you write, you are like the age you are when you write whatever piece that is. That's why I encourage any of you guys, like, write your dreams, write little notes to yourself, even if nobody sees it. It doesn't have to be just for social media. You can just like write it for yourself and like revisit it later, and you're like, holy crap, Rachel, like or my case, Kara Zorel. I was also looking up some cool commonalities between Krypton and Supergirl. We're going to get into how we can connect some celestial dots together, and I'm going to give you guys a link on how we can have a bit more of these esoteric conversations as it comes to storytelling, because I recently am coming off of a mushroom journey. Yeah, that was on, when was it? It was on the new moon of Pisces. Myself and my hubby, like, he was more guiding me, but I went in really deep. I take heroic level doses of mushies every once in a while for creative purposes, but also for self-care and ceremonial like clearing of gunk and stuff, really trying to step into who you are and trying to really let go of old patterns and old ways of doing things and like negative self-talk that sometimes still springs up. Like, healing is not a straight line. Do I know what your dream is? I don't know. You know what? You can have multiple dreams in one night as well. Hey, Doc Ethan, welcome to the live. We're gonna get into some dream interpretation as well in just a moment, because I have very prophetic dreams, but I've only recently come off birth control, and so after that I felt like almost like all these like you have to almost like, if you're someone very empathic, I feel like you have to do spiritual or psychic hygiene as to how to like sift through all those energies and such. So what was I looking for? Okay, I wanted to talk to you guys about generational stuff. Role play. Oh yeah. Okay, so let's do this as I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about me, Cara Zorel, 1985. I have, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have some screen share. I'm going to show, we're going to go through her story and the reason why I love Cara and why I love Supergirl. I feel like there is a level of, let's call it superhero fatigue in movies and storytelling, but I've always loved this from a comic book perspective. So comic book canon, I love comic books because I love images. I love drawing and illustrating and all that kind of stuff. Okay, guys, I'm just going to go into what we're going to talk about is Supergirl, and we're going to talk about 1985 and also like generations. And you know, like we have like Generation X, Generation Y, I don't subscribe to that. I'm going to offer you guys a different kind of model for that, where if you look at where Pluto was when you were born, as well as any aspects that Pluto makes with personal planets, which are your sun, your moon, and even like Mercury and Venus, you can find more information about yourself, as well as other people who are born at that same generational time, right? And you may find you have there's more nuance in talking about generations in that kind of regard, as opposed to us being like, oh, I'm a millennial and you're Gen X, and so we're this and you're that. It's far, far more complicated than that. And also there are relationships between generations based on what sign Pluto is in. So for example, the 60s and the 80s, like every 20 years is almost like this, you know, like history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? So there's a rhythm and meter, like in poetry, right? Where you're coming back to a certain kind of beat. And it's not like a loop. That's not the same thing, because it's not exactly the same thing, but it has vibes to it. Okay, maybe we'll work together and we can come up with new words for this stuff. Call me Mr. Broad Street. I like that name. Thanks for that. Hey, Alchio. Okay, so if you guys aren't familiar with my afternoon lives, I typically read comic books to you guys late at night, and tonight I'm playing as Supergirl 1985 as per Crisis on Infinite Earths, that series that happened in 1985 when I was born, so I have a lot of resonance with that story, this ending of an age to gestate and create a new age. And Kara is very, very aware of endings, right? Her planet, Krypton, is literally gone. And so the last daughter of Krypton, and being a daughter of a planet, being a daughter of Earth, I resonate with that incredibly deeply, being an Earthling. My father is South African, my mother is Filipino, and I grew up born and raised in the prairies, Manitoba, right? And so I have this very deep relationship with the planet, with Mother Earth, because I don't subscribe to a culture. I never could, right? I was never South African enough to be South African. I was never Filipino enough to be fully Filipino. So me and my sister were kind of like our tribe of two, called us like Team Pandas, Black, White, and Asian. And so I realized though, like my friend group never treated me any different. I never saw my best friend who was Jamaican as Jamaican. Like I literally saw them as just superheroes. I saw them as like my friends who were like, wow, I had such a magical thinking when I was a kid, and I'm only coming back and reintegrating that into myself now because I spent so long working in corporate, you guys. I spent so long not being myself, and it's taken so long to clear out a lot of stuff that was me, right? I was a project manager for Chrysler, Fiat Dodge Chrysler, so for automobiles. And then I worked for the hospital, diabetes. And then I worked for pharma companies to do digital implementations. Hey, Caps Collectible Spot. Oh, thank you so much. I dropped into your live stream the other day about these stories that we find resonance with, right? Like these like nerdy comic book things, the video games that you like to play. I've joined a D&D group, so I'm playing on Discord tomorrow. Like my first tabletop online D&D because I'm working on my own RPG game. I had a lot of jobs. I was always working, you guys. Always working. I was like a workaholic because my mind was always going, right? So I needed to be constantly doing something. So before I worked in corporate, even when I was working in corporate, I was still personal training people. So this is what my day was when I was competing in fitness. I'd have to do 2 hours of cardio a day. So I'd wake up at 5 a.m., get to the gym by 6, do my workout, go to work because then I wanted to be at work early because I wanted to leave the office by at least 4 p.m. to beat the traffic and get to the gym to train my clients from like 5, 6, and 7. Then I would get home, do all the extra work that would need to be done, and then like do it all again. It's crazy. That is not a way to live. And you know what, that being said, I loved everything I did. Like even project management, going through like the fire with a lot of my colleagues and really making magic happen, like working on I always considered all of it like a game. And I love winning. And I don't like games where like we have to beat another person. I like games where it's strategic, where it's like, okay, there's this problem and what are all the different ways creatively that we can solve that problem. I'm a solo Beatles and Beatles fan, so I can relate. Yeah, yeah. You know, you gotta just love what you love, right? And like, I love it when, even when I was starting to read comic books. So I read all sorts of comic books. People ask me, like, I do find that I read a lot of DC now lately, but I grew up reading more X-Men and Marvel comic books. Like, Civil War, Avengers Civil War, that was like my first kind of comic book read. And I love, like, my favorite characters were like Psylocke and Captain America, and I still do love Marvel. But I do find like recently with DC, especially with Supergirl and Krypton and all of that, I can't tell you how much that on a very recent level has been like vibing with me. So I want to trainer in corporate to create. Oh, thank you, Aljo. Like I got to, you know, I worked for KPMG here, and I think I have my birthday twin here who also worked for KPMG. And you know, these big, huge corporations, I managed 137 countries, my friends. I used to have meetings with like Thailand and Japan and Georgia, Isle of Man, Germany. I loved all of my countries, and it was like the role I was born to play. But even within that, there was so much stuff that I had to kind of like, you can't know it's me. I'm not, I'm an individual, blah, blah, blah. Like, because all of the wokeism that sifted through corporate and also like HR, HR is awful. It's like human resources, like, and all about how some people played politics. And I was like, wow, corporate is literally like the drama of high school, and I am not here for that. There's too much of like favoritism and nepotism, and you think to yourself, like, if I just do the work and I work hard, I should be rewarded for it. But unfortunately, this game is rigged on a very messed up level, and the way for us to talk about it is through things that are fictional, right? Because how surreal is reality right now, right? I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and like Doug Ford here is like, we're gonna cut off power to the US, and like we're gonna remove the US stuff here, and like these trade wars, and like this stuff isn't real, you know? Like, how come the borders aren't real? Like, I'm from the prairies, and back then you could think of like the wild horses and how you'd migrate from place to place based on the seasons. Are we really meant to stay in one place all the time? Perhaps you are meant, like, if you are that type of person, yes, but I don't think borders and the way we have our country situated doesn't allow for us to evolve into a next stage of us as humanity collaborating and working with each other. No, like, I don't think any of us as people in the countries, like, for example, I worked with a lot of people in Russia when I was at KPMG. And so when this, like, that whole war thing happened, Russia was like kicked out. But then it was sad because, like, I'd made friends with a lot of the ladies in Russia, and like I couldn't talk to them anymore. But it's like, oh, we're like at war with like the countries, but like what about the people in those countries? They don't. I don't have anything to do with the government here in Canada. In fact, they screw me up just as much as they screw up everyone else. It's not like they've helped me any. I actually have a story, you guys, about the healthcare system here and how messed up it is. Quick, we'll do that before I get into the Supergirl stuff, because this is a true story. So I'm from the prairies. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I moved here to Toronto in like 2008. I took broadcast journalism because I wanted to be like Lois Lane, April O'Neil, any of those badass like investigative reporters who wanted to get to the truth. But as I did the schooling here, I realized how much broadcast journalism was basically show business, and I was basically disillusioned with the whole thing. So I left that. It's the people who are not down with it. It's always those at the top. 100% call me at Mr. Broadstreet. It's like they want us to all fight with each other about stupid stuff so that we don't realize it's them that are the problem. Right? Like, people think that people are really good at heart. We get put into these situations and these positions where you have to make these calls and you feel like you have no choices because they've basically like gone on the land and been like, well, you have to pay us these fees and these licenses. Like, who put you in charge of anything? So I'm from the prairies, right? And Manitoba has a very was not always part of Canada, right? There is a whole wildness of that land that was just like the people live there. There was maybe some Canadians, there was Métis people, Native people. Yeah. So like I grew up in that, and I was born in 1985. You know what's trippy? I was born 100 years after they killed Louis Riel. And Louis Riel is a folk hero in Manitoba. I did his birth chart. I did his death chart. I know Louis Riel very well, and we were born in the same place, same Boniface. So I feel that like warrior Red River Rebellion. I feel that. Oh, no worries. Thank you for joining, Aljo. I'm here to, my afternoon streams are astrology based, but I don't like talking about astrology in this like woo, well, I am very woo. But I want to talk about this in practical terms because, okay, back to my story. So I moved here, and I met my husband here. I became a personal trainer at a gym, Young and Dundas. It was extreme fitness, then became a good life, but I was a personal trainer there, then trained on my own when I went into corporate. 1975, hey, there's something about the 5, that mid-decade thing. So you're turning 50 then this year, right? It's a big milestone. So I'm turning 40 this year, and my granny is turning 100. So me and my granny in Winnipeg, I'm planning a very special interview with her because she's a very cool lady. She's from South Africa and has a lot of stories about South Africa before apartheid and just all of that kind of stuff. So the placeholder there, I moved here from the prairies because I wanted to be a journalist, got really like disillusioned with the whole thing, and also realized I did have some pretty good teachers actually, and what they did teach us in journalism that it is all about storytelling, right? And this idea that you as a journalist are actually you're not supposed to know my opinion on anything, right? I'm going to present to you 2 sides of the story. I'm supposed to give you all the information that exists so that you as the viewer to whom I'm telling the story to, you can make your assessment over who the hero is, who the villain is, and all that kind of stuff. What's happened now is basically news anchors have become lackeys and propagandists for corporations, for the government, for not the truth, for what they want reality, for you to believe the reality that they're presenting to you. Now, I've realized now that through comic books, through like stories like Animal Farm, through things like all these kinds of fictional works, you can encode the truth, right? So, I'm not trying to say this is real or anything. This is just made it up. I just made it up. But if there's a truth hidden in there for you, your subconscious will pick up on that. Okay, so my little sister, I love my little sister. My little sister is a a software engineer. She's so smart. She works for EA right now in Vancouver, but back in 2017, I went out to Vancouver and we did this like sister road trip in like early October from Vancouver to Toronto because she was going to work for Ubisoft for a little bit. That's a whole other story as to how, not Ubisoft, sorry, she went back to work for Ubisoft. I'm confusing the companies. The point is that all these companies have all of their systems as well. So we took this road trip here. She lived here. So for a time, right, like when you change provinces, you have your health card and your driver's license are associated with that province, right? So when I moved to Ontario from Manitoba, I of course learned how to drive when I was like 15 and a half. I had my license right when I turned 16. I just transferred that over here. But in Ontario, they have things like your G2 and your full G, and that, I'm like, what? I don't know, you had your learners and your full license, and then I just got my full license when I moved here. So provinces are different based on like things like traffic stuff, as well as like education, and healthcare is like provincially mandated. Now my sister, coming from BC, moved here to Toronto, and I remember in BC, the health card and the driver's license are like one card. Oh, hey, Kalini. I hope you're doing. I'm talking. This is a very roundabout story about how messed up the healthcare system is in Canada, and how we can do better, hopefully, I think, by bringing to attention certain things. So, yeah, so in BC, the health card and your driver's license are like one card. So she came here to Ontario and wanted to swap those cards out, and so Service Ontario gave her like those papers where they're like, okay, just use this paper. Oh, shout out Regina, Saskatchewan. Oh my gosh, I worked with such beautiful girls from Regina. The prairies have some beautiful women. I might be biased. It's something about being out in like the Great Plains of like, oh, the horizon. I love it. Hey, Regina. Regina means queen as well, right? So Service Ontario gave my sister, they told her to just take a picture of her health card, her BC one, just in case she needed to use the healthcare system here before her health card and her new license came in the mail from this government, or the Ontario version, right? Okay, so that's the backstory. Me and my sister love working out at the gym. We love lifting heavy shit up and putting it back down. Our favorite thing to do when we get together is to go to the gym, do deadlifts, do squats. I love putting together crazy workouts because we're both incredibly strong, so we really like pushing it. So, okay, we go to the gym. We're using a machine, a hack. So it's kind of like a hinge machine, like leg press, but a standing leg press on a hinge. Now, I still have a video of this. As she's doing this leg press on the down motion, I can see in her spine something kind of like shift, and she pushes off her heels and something in the back kind of collapses. And so her back fails her. She feels like she can't walk, something like seized in her back. I'm like, holy shit, no worries. The hospital is about like a street or two away because we were like downtown at the time. So I was working at UHN at the time, Toronto General. So we go to Toronto General, we go into the emerge, and get this, they won't take her because her health card is not physical. She only has the health card as a picture. And I was like, can't you bill the government by just putting in the health card number, because the BC one should still be valid, and we have this thing from like Service Ontario? And nope. We were born, both of us, me and my sister were born in this country, and Toronto General Hospital did not take her because she didn't have a physical copy of the health card so that they could photocopy it. They wanted to be able to scan it, and because it wasn't in that format, she's like, I can email it to you, like the picture of it. And she's like, they're like, that's not good enough. I'm like, I work for this hospital and we're born in this country. Aren't we supposed to have healthcare services? But no, you need to be able to bill the government, right? So I think the crazy thing about how all of this stuff is like intertwined and how we get services, what we expect from our government, what it means to for things like healthcare, education, things like even coming into this world and leaving this world, it's all like entrenched in this like system of things that aren't real. They require our buy-in for them to believe in it, right? So like people always are like, oh, like the Matrix. I'm like, okay, great way to discern between this stuff is this: go outside, hug a tree, put your toes in the sand, take a deep breath, inhale all into your lungs, all that air. That's real. Licenses, taxes, all that kind of stuff, not quite so real. So that's just the story. I'm going to go into Supergirl. We're going to go into Generations and Pluto, and then that will be the story for today. And then later, I think we'll do a read of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I'm going to tie that into Doomsday Clock, as well as Multiversity, as a way of chronologically looking at time, right? Okay, so I'm going to, let me just pull up my screen share on this, just for my viewers who are watching this on YouTube. Let me just window capture. Let's try this. No. There we go. Aha! Excellent. Supergirl origin story. I'm just gonna put my thing on top. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to read you guys a little bit about Supergirl's origins. I don't know if people are aware, just because Crisis, the reason why I found Crisis, why I wanted to read that, you know what, I did not read Crisis on Infinite Earths until like 2021, even though it was released in 1985, right? And then it was kind of, I had already read Multiversity. It made sense to me after that point, but Harbinger, Lila, this concept of the antimatter universe, the matter universe, how like what Supergirl and the Flash did, sacrifice themselves for the sanctity of the multiverse. Yes, Patches, yes. So I'm going to bring some light to her origin story and her multiple origin stories and her multiple versions, because that's a way of us understanding this reality as well. Okay. Baffled Superman? Let me tell you my story as my parents told it to me. When Krypton blew up, you were not the only one to escape alive. Since my creation in 1959, I look great, right? 1959. Supergirl has been killed, temporarily replaced with non-Kryptonian versions, and rebooted. And due to this, her origin has been modified and revised several times. Several common details, however, remain the same. Kara Zor-El, I am Superman's teenager cousin. I'm actually older than Superman. Big sister energies indeed. Hey, Voice of Wind. I'm just going through, I'm Supergirl 1985. Came through the portal to talk to you guys about my origin stories and my multiple versions, right? So Zor-El is my father, and he's actually also known as Cyborg Superman, and there's a lot to that story as well. Same thing with my mother, Allura. So Jor-El's brother and Superman's uncle and Allura in Argo City. So there's, I don't know if people know this about Krypton. The reason why kryptonite is so poisonous to Supergirl is because the planet itself, Krypton, is actually poisonous. These cities like Argo City and Kandor, they exist as like the city is required, like technology is required, because the planet itself, unlike Earth, is not like a habit. You can't just go out into the woods in Krypton. Like it's known as like, I've been watching the show Krypton as well. Like it's not it's not a nice place to be. It's also like why Superman puts the Fortress of Solitude all the way up in the North Pole. I feel like it's like harbors back to like what Krypton is actually like. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to talk about Supergirl's pre-Crisis origin. So Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, April of 1985, Supergirl dies to save Superman. And she does so to also save the multiverse and save the whole universe. And both her and Flash make that ultimate sacrifice, one where it's not a get out of jail card, there's no Deus Ex Machina, machina. It's a true death, right? And so I think that's what there's stakes to it. I think in storytelling these days, that's been a difficulty in what storytellers have been trying to show. Like the fact, how can you have stakes when you have these super powered beings? Well, you have villains, right? That are of that level to push that heroism, right? Hey, Scourge, how's it going? I'm just going into some Supergirl origin stories as Supergirl 1985. So some pre-crisis origin facts. Kara Zor-El, I was born over a decade and a half after Krypton's explosion. Oh, interesting. That's interesting. At some point, so this is pre-crisis. Now, at some point, her parents found out that their nephew, Kal-El, had survived and was living on Earth. So when Kara was 15, a meteor shower pierced the dome surrounding Argo City and shed the lead shielding, protecting the Argonians from the radioactive soil. Remember I told you about Krypton being poisonous, and lead is what shields it. That's why you can't, Superman and the Kryptonians cannot see through lead. That's like a alchemical tell, I think, about lead. And since Superman and Supergirl and Kryptonians get their powers from the light of the solar sun, I feel like there's something. Scourge. You know what? I only know that word, scourge, as like in fantasy novels, like the scourge of the desert, or you're the scourge. So I only know of it in meaning like that. I can't off the top of my head tell you the meaning of it. You know what? That's a great segue into like the multi-meanings of words, right? We are literally living in 1984 right now, where like down is up and up is down. And there's a scene in 1984 where they like lobotomize that guy, and they like basically go like, if the state says this is 5 fingers, what does it say? And he's like 4, and they keep like electrocuting him. Like literally what we're in right now. And so Scourge, how about you tell me what it means? Because you're gonna have like Kara. That's a great segue into, I looked up what Kara means as a name. I kind of want to name my daughter Kara. So Latin origins, because I love etymology of things, like the words, the breaking down of what words mean. You know what? Let's do it up. I'll look up Kara, and then I'll look up scourge. Scourge definition. Scourge the hedgehog. Are you that too? A source of widespread dreadful affliction and devastation, such as that caused by the persistence of war, a means of inflicting severe suffering, vengeance, or punishment, a small whip. Oh, there we go. So multi-meanings. You could be a whip. You could also be an agent of vengeance, which I feel like Kara is very much an embodiment of. And I feel our society is very, oh yeah, the nicest ones of us. We're the ones given those missions, right? Because we know how to wield that type of power, right? And we've also been through the ringer ourselves. That's usually the case. Okay, let's get into what Kara means. So, interestingly enough, I'm going to tell you guys Kara has multi-meanings, but I'm going to tell you guys my favorite one. In Norse mythology, so I love Norse mythology, you guys. I love all mythology, but I love Norse. Like Odin, Freya / Frigg, Balder, Thor. Thor and Marvel's cool and all, but nothing beats the original mythologies of things. So in Norse mythology, Kara has a name with Norse origins, where it is the name of a Valkyrie. And so Valkyries are female figures who choose which warriors. Oh my gosh, this is not written properly. I'm going to say it the way I know what Valkyries are. Valkyries are those that come to warriors upon death and take you to the higher level for the great heavenly war, the great divine war. And both Freya and Odin, there's Valhalla and there's Folkvangr, which Freya oversees over, and Odin's a gentleman, right? He lets Freya pick first of the warriors, of the bravest warriors, those souls who get to fight in the divine war. Krypton exploded, the domed city survived, flung into space. Later, meteorites penetrated. Hey, Superman, that's the crazy thing though, because I feel like there's multiple stories when it comes to how Krypton ends. So I've been watching the show Krypton, and in that, right, it talks about Kandor and the bottled city, and how Brainiac collects Kandor 200 years ahead of Krypton's explosion, and that's how Kandor survives it. Um, Tom Cruise lost an eye. In what did he? Okay, let me go back to what I was saying about Kara's name. So Kara actually is the name of a Valkyrie, but also means wild, stormy one. And so this idea of this wildness and even just the rage of a planet, right? Like the series that I'm reading and I'm turning into a script format with my hubby as Hal Jordan Green Lantern is that she goes to Supergirl goes to Mogo to look at all of the files to find out who truly killed Krypton, because her father, Zor-El, gets blamed for it on some regard, right? Because Krypton is very like high technology, right? Actually, I'm going to show you, I'm going to let you guys in on some of the sleuthing I've been doing as it comes to Krypton and Rao and mythology in our real life, okay? Yes, Brainiac shrunk cities into bottles throughout the galaxy. That's right. And so he's going around being like, "Ooh, you're perfect for collecting." Krypton's actually I haven't gotten through the whole thing. I know there's only 2 seasons, but there is such commonalities there with Egyptian mythology. So like Rao and that pantheon of gods, as well as like the hijack of if you watch Stargate, there's some commonalities there about like how like almost like this alien infestation, like Brainiac uses something called a sentry to like take over things. But anyways, let's go into Krypton for a second. Just a second. Let me just make sure this is being shown. Okay, perfect. So I went down this like rabbit hole when it came to looking at Supergirl's parentage and origin story. So Zor-El is my father. Now, in one of the stories that I'm reading in comic books, I didn't know the background of it, but Zor-El's kept in like stasis, and he like pretends that he's sleeping because he turns into cyborg Superman because like his memory gets wiped and he goes to battle against Supergirl and all that kind of stuff. Yes, because these are all true stories. 100% Superman, 100%. I see you. Okay, Zor-El was a Kryptonian scientist and my father, and Jor-El and Zor-El were brothers. And I think there's a story there between Zor-El and Jor-El. Like, my father and your father, Superman's, our fathers did not necessarily see eye to eye on things. So he is a member of the House of El and the Kryptonian Science Guild, as well as the former Kryptonian Artists Guild. Zor and his wife, Allura in Z, survived the destruction of Krypton thanks to the dome surrounding Argo City. Later, their city would be demolished and be captured by Brainiac and relocated to the bottle city of Kandor. Oh, interesting. Where they would be preserved. After being freed from Brainiac together with the whole city of Kandor, Zor-El was murdered by what? Reactron under the orders of Sam Lane. I don't know that story. I need to look into it. In Prime Earth, he took part in the creation of the World Killers, a fact he would come to regret. Although he managed to save Argo City, all Argoians eventually died except for him, as he was saved by Brainiac and transformed into a brainwashed cyborg Superman. Zor-El would later be murdered by Mr. Oz. Mr. Oz is also Jor-El. He's like other version of Zor-El. Zor-El was created by Otto Binder, which is also the creator of Supergirl. So it's interesting that Superman and Supergirl do not necessarily have the same creators. Like Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel created Superman and as a result Krypton. But the build-off points of additional characters are actually different creators. So Otto Binder and Al Plastino, first appearing in Action Comics 252, 1959. So Supergirl and her father, in her creation, They were both created at the same time. Okay, so next I wanted to look into Samuel Lane. Who are you? General Sam Lane. Boo. Okay, next. Otto Binder, a writer for national periodical publications, later known as DC Comics. He is recognized for his extensive contributions to both the golden and silver age of superhero comic strips. He was also half of the science fiction writing team, and Otto Binder for Earl and Otto Binder, brother authors of the Adam Link robot stories. Are you guys familiar with that? I'm gonna put a bookmark on that. General Lane is Lois Lane's father. Really? Superman? I did not know that. I love Lois Lane, by the way. Who doesn't love Lois? Okay. I wanted to become a journalist just like her. And I always forget too that Clark Kent was a journalist. Superman's alter ego is a journalist. Something to keep in mind. Where are we? Okay, so next I wanted to look up stuff on Allura, my mom, because I've been doing a lot of like mother wound healing lately. So Allura is the wife, my mom was the wife of scientist Zor-El and the mother of Kara Zor-El. Using Brainiac's technology, Allura and the people of Argo City survived the destruction of Krypton, so that's explaining that. So the thing about Allura, she's very like, how should I put it, like fanatical, I guess. She like has like Kryptonian ideals and is trying to like conform, like doesn't want like, I don't know, I guess you kind of think of yourself as like elitist over like earthlings. Let's see here. Allura's commitment towards Kryptonian ideals took a bitter turn when two known agents of Project 7734, Metallo and Reactron, invaded New Krypton and murdered Zor-El, and Allura presided over her husband's funeral services. Following this, Allura continued working on a project originally begun by Zor-El, using elements of the Sunstone crystal as well as reverse-engineered components of the original Brainiac probes. Allura activated a device that uprooted all of New Krypton from the Earth. The city-state flew into the sky and took position around the sun, opposite orbit of Earth. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so she publicly declared that since Kryptonians were obviously no longer welcome on Earth, then Earthlings, as well as Superman, would not be permitted on New Krypton. Oh, interesting. Once New Krypton was in a fixed orbit, Allura then used a Phantom Zone projector and freed many of the Phantom Zone prisoners, including General Zod, Ursa, and Non. Oh, and then when Brainiac attacked New Krypton, Allura helped defend the city and became the sole surviving council member in the wake of the attack. Okay, so what an interesting thing. Like, Brainiac is so obsessed with, I guess, collecting a city from Krypton. I guess there's a reason for that. Okay, that's Allura. I just wanted to look up what Project 7734 was. You and I, General, we're alike, I think, Lex Luthor. You know what's funny? I actually like Lex Luthor a little bit. You and I, General, we're alike, I think, in a few ways. Truth be told, you're one of the first to see what I see in Superman. You and I have our own X-ray vision. Oh, interesting. I did not know Lois Lane, that was her dad. So, Lane's motivation was to safeguard planet Earth against extraterrestrial threats. Although it was formerly believed that Lane was dead, he revealed his existence to mastermind Lex Luthor and used his resources to extradite him from prison to join the project. Now, although Lane was an experienced military commander, it was Luthor's scientific wizardry that he required. The project came together after Brainiac attempted to assimilate all knowledge from Earth. Brainiac was defeated by Superman, but his comatose body was recovered by Lane and his 7734 scientists. One of the micro-cities that had been stored aboard Brainiac's ship was the lost Kryptonian city of Kandor. Superman restored Kandor to its proper size on Earth, near his Fortress of Solitude. Oh, wow. Okay, so that whole story. Oh, thanks, small feed. Okay, that's kind of cool. I didn't know. I just had to do a little side note on that project. I wanted to look up stuff on the sunstone though. So, this idea of crystal and crystal technology, I feel like is a tell for me personally, just from my own dreams of technology on this planet. Like when we talk about tech, I don't think Elon Musk and I don't think smartphones. I think of us finally realizing how to use quartz properly, how we're able to conduct energy, how we're able to take stones and encode our dreams on them so that I can give you a stone and you can like have that dream and you're like, oh, I see what you mean. Like us leveraging these gemstones of the earth in how they're meant to be leveraged and not just to be put in crowns of tyrants. They're meant to be activated, just like the temples. True quartz. Oh, yes, quartz. There's a lot of, but there's many crystals, right? And there are many crystals that I think that you. So, let's circle back. I'm gonna bring you guys some nerd stuff. So I was a personal trainer. I still am a personal trainer, and I working out in the gym is my communion with myself. You know, breathing in, breathing out, creating that Ouroboros within. That breath is something that's powering your muscles, becoming stronger, all that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you. So what exists in your body is something known as fascia, and fascia is like liquid crystal. It's like a net, a web, like your world wide web for your body. It's why you're able to like brush your little toe and you know immediately that's happening. No Wi-Fi can compete with that. No 5G. That is the perfect technology. This body is the perfect technology. So think of it as a liquid crystal. It's like no different than sugar. There's like a crystalline form and then you like dissolve it in liquid and it doesn't seem like a crystal, but it can solidify again. So our fascia and our whole body, all of us have that. And so I feel like based on our genetic code, we just have certain keys. That's why like certain crystals for you are going to call to you more. Like for me, rose quartz is a big one. Amethyst is big for me. Malachite I have, but there are symbolic intrinsic properties to lots of these stones, right? And a lot of them are actually found in mines in Ontario. Like there's an amethyst mine. I remember when we were driving across the country that exists not too far away from here, and different places that you can like pick up quartz. Like my hubby like was a big like rock and stone nerd. Wissa, when you're liking this, I bet like if so any of you rock nerds out there, like even Jedis with how they build their lightsabers, it's because of how the crystals, like there's a crystal that calls to you and you're able to like create energy from it. Puffin, this is TikTok when you talk. Yeah, you're talking about magic. And so here's the thing too, right? So Supergirl and Superman, they're both considered vulnerable to magic. Why do you think that is, you guys? Because like Zatanna, I love Zatanna, so I cosplay as Zatanna too. She's her and Constantine, they're known as like the magic backup for the Justice League, because like you know Supergirl and Superman, they deal with this axis of Pisces and Virgo, and Virgo, Supergirl's a Virgo, right? And that's very earth energy, that's very grounded in kinetic state, that's very material plane stuff, and it's like the outcome of what magic is, right? Versus this like where does that come from, the realm of ideas versus the realm of causes when you're seeing the outcome of it. Krypton is their weakness because of disrupting those fields, I presume. You know what, Puffin? I think here's I think the difference. Like Earth, where we are right now, is such a magical place in the entire cosmos. I think that's the thing to kind of bear in mind, because Krypton, unlike Earth, right? You know, like Earth warriors, like we can invoke the Earth, our mother, who nourishes us, gives us trees and water and all this this stuff. Krypton is not that. Krypton's actually poisonous. A lot of their female goddesses are actually ice and death goddesses, right? You have Ra, the sun god, but it's not, they don't have a lot of maternal energy in Krypton, so it's very much masculine energies. So that's why Supergirl, even though she's the female form or the female counter to Superman, is still almost like masculine in a weird way, even though she's female embodiment. So this is just a way for us to think of these as energies and not to get so tied up in things like gender and pronouns. And this cuts us off from us talking about what things really mean. We get so triggered by like, oh, you're calling it this and I'm calling it that. And like just about like, oh, what do you mean by that, right? Oh yeah, ends us on any planet. And it's more about this imbalance is what ends it, right? I feel like any cataclysm, this is a trope in many stories, right? The doom in Game of Thrones, even like old Valyria where the dragons are, or even ancient Atlantis. There's always this idea of we're tinkering with things that we're not supposed to tinker with. We're using magic irresponsibly. We're using tech without realizing that matter is not created nor destroyed. It is transmuted and transformed. You cannot get something from nothing. Things require great sacrifice and work to get what you desire. And if you skip those steps, there are ramifications for that. And not to be like, oh, don't do this and don't do that arbitrarily, but just that there's a cosmic order to things. And simply put, I do feel like astrology and a lot of these stories, the comic book stories that resonate with you, the fact that Superman knew that Commander Lane is Lois Lane's father, and the fact that Superman loves the daughter of this figure, there is a truth in there about the way the universe operates, right? How reality works. Oh, hi. Thank you so much. I'm reborn. I'm Supergirl 1985. So it's been a hot minute since 1985. It's been 40 years. So I'm back. I look great, right? I've been in like the phantom zone for like 40 years. And so I'm back and I'm here to talk about the fact that like just like no different than you have multiple Supergirls, I'm welcome to multiple Supergirls existing, but I am a Supergirl. I am not the only one. And I think that is something that I've just realized when it comes to reading these comic book stories, is that you are the magic in the story. You're the one bringing Superman to life. You're the one bringing Batman to life. You're the Jedi. You're the Sith. You are all of it. So in this reality, who are you going to play, right? And who are your friends and who's counting on you, right? Used only to beat up Trumpers on his 1940s radio show. But you know what, that's the thing, right? We have multi-dimensionals, right? And somewhere, this is a comic book, right? Someone's reading a comic book about what it's like for us to finally wake up to our true selves, right? That's the crazy thing. Hey Sith, cut it out, be Jedi instead. That's the thing though. I feel like Star Wars got messed up on purpose too. We can talk Star Wars another time, but do you guys have a favorite character in Star Wars? I have, who my favorite character is? Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love him so much. And like I don't like his ideas on democracy, but this idea of like that mentor and that sage older being. And like, my sister has said this, like, I feel like in a past life, I was just an old wizard, an old wizard, writing my stories and, getting confused as to like what I'm playing here. And in this life, I'm, trying to figure out how we make superheroes exist in this realm, right? How we actually have this, take it from our imagination and do it in a real practical sense. Because to be honest, that's why I started working out. I thought if I built an avatar, if I built this body to be able to be strong enough to hold that energy, that I would be deemed worthy of it, right? And that it would come to me. You can't blame the Matrix. No, you can't blame anything. Lumpy Chewie's son is my fave. Oh, I love Lumpy voice. I know we watched the Star Wars Christmas special, which is available on YouTube for free during Christmas, Voice of One. So I know exactly what you're talking. I love that story about how like Han Solo gets Chewie home for Christmas to be with his wife and family. But all those parts of universes are like, I love all that. And I love, thank you, George Lucas, for dreaming that up, right? And thank you for everyone who catches on to those dreams. And I feel like I'm working on my own world right now, and I'm actually Princess Leia. Princess Leia is awesome, you guys. Yeah. Oh my gosh, too many characters to choose from. Favorite. And you know what? Your favorites provide resonance for you, right? And they give you clues as to who you're meant to play for perhaps other people in your life, right? Or who to look for, who's playing like a role, and you're like, but you see their real role for you on that cosmic level. Like, got tingles just saying that. The three female. You know what? I have to thank a lot of males out there. Oh, Lukumi, thank you. A crystal crown. I just got like, I felt that from here. It's like, just most I've done. Oh, Tiger Spirit. Did I miss your name? Please flex. You know what? My biceps. I call these my my Sarah Connor arms. You know, like in Terminator 2, where she's like training for the machines, and like they all think she's crazy, right? And that's the thing about seeing the future. They're all gonna think you're nuts. So, and I do have to thank cosplay for providing me the freedom for my throat chakra, right? Because we get so tied to like the name you're born with, right? When you go to school, all of these roles that are put on you that you didn't necessarily even choose, but I choose to play as Supergirl, right? Yeah, satire. You know what? The universe has such a sense of humor, you guys. They don't call it the cosmic giggle for nothing. And I think that Voice of One, that's her name for sure. Cara Jean. That's a great name. I would love to name my daughter that. Oh. It's cool. Okay, so oh my gosh, I just got all the full. Okay, I had something I wanted to share with you guys because I can't be with you all day today. We're gonna do. We have a few things that we're releasing today. I'm actually joining a D&D Discord group game tomorrow. I'm playing as a half elf rogue assassin. And we're playing in Forgotten Realms, which is cool, in a cave system. And I haven't played in. I've usually played video games RPG. So Voice of When I have my Discord server, I would love for you to be my dungeon master to help me out in creating the first game in Dragon Warriors. It's the Cosmic Chronicles of Ancient Atlantis. So think of us in like an ancient future time in a really high-tech civilization right here on Earth. And our future selves are playing a game about being on this Earth school as to what it's like to be human. All right? And rediscovering our magical selves. My Discord is, just so you guys know, don't switch. It's Rachel Sabrina. It's Rachel.Sabrina. And I have the channel for... What is this channel called? It's called Quantum. Yeah, it's called Quantum Playground. The Quantum Playground. And so I have Cosmic Chronicles RPG, which is the game. And I've been working on drawing a map. TikTok of Oz, published 1914. Ooh. Oh. Wow, Puffin. You have some esoteric knowledge there. Okay. So... I'm going to share you guys the Discord server after this conversation because I do want to, like, Krypton's a real place. Actually, that's actually that good segue into what I actually want to talk with you guys today. So I did some digging into Krypton and the mythology of Krypton. So because Kara has said in the past that her father basically used myth. Oh, thanks, Life is Not a Battle. Her father basically used myth and oh, thank you so much, Lukini. Lukomi. Oh my gosh, am I saying your name right? Lukumi. Um, okay, so I looked into, so the type of nerdy person I am is this. I read so many books. I have read so many books. Narnia was a big influence of me, so I read all of C.S. Lewis's stuff. I love C.S. Lewis so much. Did you guys know C.S. Lewis, Aldous Huxley, and JFK all died within 8 hours of each other? They all left this realm at the exact same time on the last degree of Scorpio. So there's into Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is known as, if you look at the constellations, as the galactic center. It's where we're going, right? It's where we can consciously be able to pilot the Earth mothership once we kind of figure this stuff out. People ask me, they're like, what do the pyramids, what I think happened with the pyramids, how we were able to build all those pyramids? We asked the Earth. We asked the rocks, hey, do you mind moving? Because they're sentient, right? The Earth is sentient. So stones, minerals, all that, that's all like metals, right? They're all from the Earth, right? Slaves? No. I don't think that's true, Hunter. That's just my opinion. I don't think it was slaves. Perhaps there was slaves at a point, but I do think if we go way, way back, we didn't do, we were high tech. There's a lot of stories about goo. I think even Coppola did this in this latest movie with Kylo Ren, which I didn't like, but like the substance that can make things levitate, or I have a comic book by Jodorowsky about the metabarons where they have this goo, this oil that you rub on things and it makes things float. So imagine if we can think of tech in more of that format. For example, Batgirl, who I love, Barbara Gordon, she's also a good friend of mine. Kara and Barbara are besties. I don't know if people, how come that never is done live action? I'm doing it, don't worry. Hunter Nebula, modern archaeology kind of just proves the slavery thing. And you know what? Even modern archaeology cannot be trusted. You know what I mean? There's still, we have a hard time as a human race or human species changing direction after we've built up all these textbooks believing one thing, right? Look at Galileo when he discovered the telescope and was like, hey, look, we're not actually the center of the universe. They're like, what? Burn you at the stake. Even though that's true, right? So it's that perspective in terms of our consciousness. We need to be more open to things. Oh, the Incal and Mobius. Oh, Mobius is amazing. Oh, let me show you guys because I have to. I don't know where that comic book is. I'm gonna read you guys a piece of the Metabarons as Lilu from the Fifth Element. Although I do think Jodorowsky sued the Fifth Element for stealing some ideas. But Incal, awesome. So Puffin, there's a whole series that's built off the Metabarons in the Incal about it's really cool. It's a cool series. Set you my Discord. Oh, perfect. I'll add you. I just saw it come through. It's fun. Perfect. Yay. Maybe we can even start the game as early as this weekend, you guys. Start playing the Cosmic Chronicles of Ancient Atlantis, because I see all of you out there. There is a hidden galactic past that humanity has. I know it. Lilu Dallas Matipas. Yeah, that's right. And what is that quote that she says, Lilu? Me supreme being, me protect you, right? And that's what I'm here to try to do, right? Okay, so I was talking about Ra because Ra, the sun god, those are very commonality. And Rachel, Ra, I have a very strong link, resonance with the sun, with our solar power, solar fire, our solar plexus, our heart to be able to do. I bow to the Buddha within you as well, right? Myself and my hubby, we watched this movie last night called The Gorge with, I love that actress. so much. She played she was in The Northman, and she was also Princess Peach. She, oh, what is her name? Anyways, that movie though, I was like, I have a weird I had a weird sense of playing like a past life where I was that. I have a very strong resonance with the archetype of like a rogue, mistress of disguise, of like knowing when to keep secrets, right? Knowing, just the mask of it, and knowing who to protect, right? I love the Super Mario's movie. Oh yeah, it was really, really good. It was really good. And I Nintendo and video games, I can't tell you how much that has me and my sister like had an N64 growing up. Two little girls. We asked for it for Christmas. We like pooled our Christmas gift together. We're like, we just want a game console. Like, what little girls want that? Little girls who game. And I love Halo. I love Master Chief. I love Mass Effect. I love a lot of video games that have a lot of these stories encoded with them, because video games are another way, just like comic books, by which to tell a story. Anya Taylor-Joy, thank you, Keaton. She deserves a shout out. Anya, if you want to be a dragon warrior, I would love to write you into my movie that I'm trying to crowdfund. Zelda, Luigi. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, Zelda, Link. So Super Smash Brothers, you guys, and 64 literally was like my favorite game. It's why I love Samus Aran, if you guys are familiar with her from Metroid. Because just badass women, like, and thank goodness to the men out there who dreamed up such badass women. And so I feel like the onus is on like us women creators now to also dream up some awesome male heroes, right? Like, and like that's what I think we both can do for each other. We can rise to the roles that we give those that we love in our lives, right? Because we know that they're able to fulfill that. Who else would you cast? Like, it's the thing, like, who would you choose to cast, like, in your life, your cosmic life? So we're going to go into just crypto. So Ra is the red sun that the planet Krypton orbits. It's named after the Kryptonian god Ra. But I wanted to get into real life because in real life, they say Krypton and Ra is a real star, and Ra is actually one of the stars in the constellation of Corvus. Corvus is the Crow constellation, a small constellation in the South Celestial Hemisphere. The name means crow in Latin, and you guys know how much I loved the old Crow movie, the 1993 movie with Brandon Lee, R.I.P. The Crow as also being symbolically a being that traverses realms, bringing messages between dimensions and things like that. How feminist and cool the Nintendo is. Right? Well, I don't like the word feminist, you guys. I don't like, all of those words have so much like baggage associated with them, right? Like, me and my friends growing up were so boy crazy. I love boys. I love cute guys. I love heroes. I love rooting for like doing the right thing and like the good guy, right? So and even a good villain, like I was for 25 years. Oh, Puffin, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys, because that's what matters, like let people rise up to that role that you endow, like give to them, right? Like, forget about those other people. Okay, so going back to that constellation. So as I said, regardless of what you think the stars are, for millennia our ancestors have looked up to the stars for guidance and support. We split 2 years ago, but it was good. It could have been better. What a mature way of talking about your growth, Puffin, and just this idea of like, we're gonna get into this with Green Lantern and Star Sapphires and love, right? So like unrequited love, going through breakups. I've gone through some heartbreak, my friends. I remember my first breakup. I was so like full of myself at the time. I'm like, oh my god, who breaks up with me? I'm supposed to break up with you, like, and like that was a lesson. Now I think about it, right? And realizing that like I deserved to be broken up with. Like looking back on it, I didn't behave, and as like I wasn't a good girlfriend to him, and he did deserve better. And but we did have fun, right? We are each other's lessons. We are each other's gurus, right? We also, in those relationships, we are aware of like our place, our sacred role for other people too, right? Me and her haven't had any arguments with each other, and I'm glad we don't. Wow, Keaton, that's awesome. Good for you. And you know what, too? I'm an Aries, Venus in Aries, so it's almost interesting how like I show love by arguing. Me and my hubby love to debate with each other. Not debate, but like witty banter, right? I do not like it when people agree with me, just off the hop, just to agree with me. But I don't like it when people are being mean on purpose or being contrarian just to be different, right? But I love it when people have a differing viewpoint than me, because I'm very interested in that, because I'm always curious as to like, well, how did you come to that viewpoint? Because I know how I came to my viewpoint, and then we can just share stories as to that. And we can both inform each other and expand our worldview if we just let each other explain, right? I'm a fairy witch. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love fairy. These are all real things too, by the way. Okay, so let's talk about I love, yes, let's debate, because that's how we figure it out. So I used to be a project manager at the hospital. I used to work on an application known as MANT for diabetes management. So I managed two teams of developers, one for Apple and one for iOS. And so when I did sprint planning and software development, the way I ran those meetings, I would sometimes have the teams together, sometimes have the teams apart. Now, I remember we were having a very heated meeting because being the project manager, right, you're also the liaison between the really, really technical people and like the client. I don't know why I did that. It was like Google gave me an indication. It's like, are you trying to sign in? I'm like, no, I'm not trying to sign in. I'm like, is someone trying to hack me? I have to go deal with that. Cyber fairies are real too. Oh, yes, 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 yes. So I think you guys, I'm gonna put it out there for you guys that we need to come up with new words. Just so many words have just been like corrupted, and like we're not even talking about the same things. Like when we say things like astral travel and magic and like sorcery, and these are all like loaded terms, and then we have like a lot of like new age hokiness. And I know I'm talking to you guys about activating superpowers, but I mean really. I mean actually, because think about it. We have all this technology, right? And Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, after the events of the Killing Joke, right, she becomes paralyzed. She's able to walk again because of a neural implant from Lex Luthor, who's a villain, right? But he's got like technical wizardry. And so, interestingly enough, Lex Luthor actually has a lot in common with Kryptonians in a weird way. But it's all to say that there's a tell in all of these, right? So when you're writing all of these fantastical stories, when you're creating a world, it still needs to make sense. So we build in words, we build in ways of modeling and explaining this stuff. And when someone does that once, we can build upon it and maybe remix it and add more to it. Instead of us becoming so like, well, that's the only way it is and no revisions ever, right? Like, we get so attached. And it's not about throwing it out and like erasing it. It's just like, okay, old version, or like in software, like, okay, version 2.1 maybe. But we don't, doesn't mean we like forget about version 1. But I think in this case right now, like, I've worked in like projects where like you're like on version 8, 9, and you know, it's time to go back to the source code. It's time to stop putting band-aids on top of everything and go back to like basics and figure out like, what the heck are we even doing here on planet Earth? What are we doing? and answer that question at a personal level, and then a lot of it's not that difficult. It's challenging, but it's not as confusing as the powers that aren't will have us believe. Okay, so going back to Krypton and Ral, the Grateful Dead make words with them. Yeah, yes. Because songs are stories, right? I can't tell you guys, like, speaking of breakups, a song and the lyrics or something in that song, just like, oh my gosh, you know exactly how I feel. Someone out there knows exactly how this feels. I don't know, like Whitney Houston's The Greatest Love of All, that song. I like re-listened to it. I forget when it was, but I was like, oh my gosh, it hit harder for me because it's like, oh, the greatest love of all is the one that you have for yourself. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And then realizing that you're a mirror of everyone else. Cheesy, but true. But let's get into what the reality of it all. So Rao / Krypton is located in the Crow constellation, right? And interestingly enough, I wanted to loop this back into Greek myth just to give you guys some connections I made in terms of stories and see if you guys take that and it makes sense for you in your own stories. Hope that makes sense to your subconscious self. So Corvus is a small constellation, right? So I wanted to get into the myth. Okay. So Corvus is associated with the myth of Apollo. Apollo's the sun god, right? In Greek myth, Apollo and Artemis, sun and the moon. Apollo and his lover Coronis the Lapith. Lapiths are centaurs. Coronis had been unfaithful to Apollo. Not cool, lady. And then when Apollo learned of this information from a pure white crow, or a raven in some cases, he turned the feathers black in a fit of rage. Another legend associates Corvus with a crow who stopped on his way to fetch water for Apollo, and he started to eat these figs. But he's like, oh, these figs aren't ripe. So he like waited for the figs to ripen. And he's like, oh shit, I'm late. So instead of telling the truth to Apollo, he lied and he said that a snake, Hydra, kept him from the water while holding a snake in his talons as proof. So he made up this story to try to lie to the sun god about like why he was late with the water. It was really just because he was eating figs. Apollo, realizing this was a lie, flung the crow, the cup, and the snake into the sky. And he further punished the wayward bird by ensuring it would forever be thirsty, both in real life and in the heavens. So that's a little bit of like, I don't like that story as much. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about Apollo's unfaithful lover. Because she's interesting. Coronis, the lover of Apollo. So one day, Apollo saw Coronis and became enamored of her. He lay with her in her home, and consequently she became pregnant. One time, when Apollo was away performing his godly duties, I don't know what that means, maybe being the sun, right? Doing the sun thing. Coronis fell in love with Ischys, the son of Elatus. Going against his father's warnings, she slept with him in secret. Apollo, however, discovered this affair through his prophetic powers or by the crow in some instances. Angered, he sent his sister Artemis, the moon goddess, to kill Coronis. Artemis killed Coronis and her family with her arrows, and in one variation, Artemis kills them of her own accord to avenge the insult done to her brother. Now, in Ovid's poem, it is a raven that informed Apollo of the affair, and so he killed Coronis with his own arrow. Before her death, Coronis was resigned to her fate, and Apollo instantly regretted his impulsive action and tried to heal her. However, Coronis was already dead, but she's pregnant, right? He then places her body on the pyre and poured myrrh and other sweet fragrances. And then he conducts a cesarean section. And so this baby is Ashbless, oh my gosh, the god of healing. Asclepius? Yes, the hero and god of medicine. So the son of Apollo and Coronis, and he's born of cesarean C-section. You know what, Puffin? That's a great question, right? Because the gods tend to just love who they love and they like go in there and get it anyway. Like, if you don't like it, who cares? You're with a god, aren't you? Like, there's more yes, you got it, Tangem. So Apollo is Asclepius. I cannot say his name right now. Asclepius? Asclepius. Asclepius. Okay. I'm not going to say it too often. I'm going to blame my foreign heritage on how I can't pronounce certain words. But Tangem, you said it correctly. So it's an interesting story, right? Because that constellation that Krypton is supposed to be part of has these stories associated with it. The god of healing, being born of a cesarean section because of an infidelity. And so funny how like the gods can be like, oh, you cheated on me. Like, you literally sleep with everything. Right? Like, but I'm supposed to. But anyway, that's a whole. We can leave that for another time to talk about that. But I think what's important is to look at these fables and these stories. Okay, there's this one meaning, but then there's a meaning on top of that meaning because of symbolically what these figures represent, right? Like, no different than Supergirl, because of her powers, symbolically represents certain things, right? Claimer cast goddesses and gods. Yeah. So this idea of the health, so like my hubby, Caduceus, right? People sometimes confuse that staff of the two serpents with Asclepius's staff, which is the medicine staff, which is the one snake. The reason I bring this up is because the symbols, like even Supergirl, right? If you connect this becomes an Ouroboros, right? This connection of heaven and earth, this idea of pure activation, this kind of thing. I choose, you deal with it, deities. But you know what? That's the thing to even. So let's take this, and you're like, as within, so without. Let's take this to be aspects of ourself. So Apollo in ourselves represents order, right? He's also the god of oracles as well, right? So this idea of telling the future is associated with Apollo, and I think that's the prophecies though are usually based on pattern, right? So think of music and how I told you, like you come back to another chorus, you're gonna like hear the same chorus. So yeah, so in ourselves we have the villain and the hero. We have, let's say, within ourselves when we are being untrue to ourselves. Like, I have conducted infidelity to myself where I promised myself I would, let's say you like, I'm gonna go to the gym at 11 a.m. and you don't make it, and it's a date with yourself. You've basically cheated on yourself, right? So this idea of like order in our own world, and then we sometimes make mistakes. And so Apollo is regretful when he kills his lover, right? And we sometimes act out, this fit of rage, and you can't take it back. You break something and it's broken, and even though you mend it, you can't, it's happened. Now it's always happened, right? Even if you apologize and say sorry, like Krypton, no matter what we do, Krypton cannot come back. Krypton is gone, right? This planet no longer exists. And I just postpone art creative. Yeah. So I do think that in that story, when like being enamored of Krypton, these stories, this idea of wanting it to be real, right? What makes reality real? You. In your universe, right? You're the only one living in here, right? Until you connect with others. So I encourage all of you guys, like, just to, you got it, Puffin, we're on the same wavelength there. Like, just to take a hold of whatever stories in your life provide you that inner power. I wanted to talk about generations today, but I didn't end up doing that because I wanted to talk about how Pluto is now in Aquarius, right? And Aquarius is a fixed sign, just like Scorpio, and I was born with Pluto in Scorpio. And so I find, like, with the fixed signs, Pluto's, I feel for anyone, like the babies being born now, the Pluto in Aquarius generation, because I do feel like they're going to get pre-downloaded with certain information, and this world doesn't have the right words to kind of talk to them about it. And it's we need to do a better job of creating some new myths, and supporting that, so that these kids know how special they are. Yes, Puffin, and you know what? That's why it's really nice to have friends on these journeys, right? Like, as much of a lone wolf as I am a nerd, like, it's still fun having all the lone wolves get together. You got it, Puffin, too. Like, we can only achieve unity through separation, right? I can only miss you if we're away from each other, right? So we have a separation so that we can rejoice in coming together again. And I think that that is where we are in the story, you guys. And this idea of reach out to the cosmos, reach out to the stories of old, reach out to the universe with your heart. And you can do this in dreams. You can do this when you're all by yourself and you just speak to yourself, or just in writing, or any sort of divination, personal practice you have to connect with yourself and through yourself, the entire cosmos. Because right now, each of us almost has like a piece of the map, a piece of this big puzzle, and only you are going to notice what you're going to notice. And a lot of messages are meant just for you, like, did he hear, did they say that? Or did I just make that up? And if you did just make it up, where did that come from? So I encourage all of you guys, when we're talking about generations like millennials, Gen X, and like what these generations are supposed to do, even like decades, you're born in this decade, and so you're this. No, this is a discovery in whoever you are. And you happen to be born in a certain time, and that's going to give you clues, but nothing is fatalistic. It's just like how, like, beats in Supergirl, even though she's got multiple versions in all these universes, there are beats that are the same. And things, essences, the true meanings ontologically behind things that are true, right? And so oh yeah, I can't be a loner without a lone wolf society behind me, right? Like dragons. Like, I resonate a lot with dragons, and I've been reading this book called Mistress of Dragons, and this idea for like thousands of years, dragons just like sleep and dream in their caves, but we still do need to socialize, get out every 1,000 years or so and like share stories. Okay, because really it's all about connecting. And some of you are going to be stars that are way out there in the constellation, but you're still part of the family. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little talk as 1985 Supergirl. We'll probably do a little read later on of Crisis of Infinite Earths in conjunction with Multiversity and Doomsday Clock as a way of looking at prophecy in comic books. And then we'll have more info coming up about like the RPG game that I've been working on that's in conjunction with the comic book I'm working on, the stories I'm working on. Thanks, Voice of One, and thank you guys all for bringing your magical selves and being present, because I can't tell you, things are gonna get, like, my own visions of what's gonna happen coming up. It's gonna be fun. And so, like, let's all be like surfers and ride the wave. You don't need to be like scared of it. You can, like, it's all for you, baby. Okay, my friends, remember, it takes true courage to be exactly you in this game of life, but no worries, the universe is counting on you, right? I'm reminded of like one of my very first breakthrough experiences on magic mushrooms. I had this scene from like Sailor Moon come to me where like Luna's yelling out at Sailor Moon and she's like, you must believe in yourself. Please, everyone is counting on you. You have got to believe in yourself. So, the universe is counting on you. Believe in yourself. No worries though. I have your back. And to remind you, all right, guys, until next time, stay super, my friends. Goodbye.